Welcome to For the Health of It. I'm your host, Corian K. Paget, and this is your number one source for all things sports, health, and fitness related.
Oh, hold on, Coach. What does For the Health of It stand for?
Good question, Austin. The four and For the Health of It stands for our four principles, which are mindset, movement, nutrition, and recovery.
Okay, cool. Let's do it for the health of it then.
Welcome to another edition of For the Health of It. Today I have with me the Harris family. They own and operate We Work Hard Mississippi. I like to call this family a story of hard work, education, and love. And they also have today their son, Jonathan Jr. Jonathan, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
Good, 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 man. I know you're a little bit of an athlete like both of your parents, and you were very well educated. So I got to ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up?
A football player, and if that does not work out, I want to be a teacher.
Okay, football player and teacher. Got you, got you, got you. Okay. Where would you, if you could choose any school to go to, what school would you want to go to?
The school at Jackson State for college.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking for. All right. My next question is, what are your favorite sports?
Baseball, if it's in person, football, basketball, and a little bit of soccer.
Okay. Okay. Baseball is a little boring. I can't watch it on TV myself. But who's your favorite baseball team?
The Yankees.
Yankees? Okay. I thought you were going to say the Braves. Okay. All right. Now, here's my question I've been waiting to ask you for a long time. Who are your favorite wrestlers?
My favorite wrestlers of all time would be Stone Cold Steve Austin, and for right now is Xavier Woods,
Really? Why Xavier Woods?
because he's smooth in the ring.
Okay. All right. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Well, if it's all right with you, I want to bring your parents in now. That cool with you?
Yep.
All right. Appreciate you.
All right.
All right. Now we got Jonathan Sr. and Tamika Harris. So before we get too far into it, I want to mention how I met both of you. I met Tamika at Gym Hill. We both work together. She's the girls track coach and the head cheerleading coach. And then I'm the boys track coach. And then obviously I met her husband through her. But if y'all believe in the 7 degrees of separation, me and her husband both share a childhood friend. He grew up in New Orleans, and we ended up knowing the same guy. So yeah,
Right.
crazy small world. But let's go ahead and get into it. Like I mentioned, country is from New Orleans. Tamika, you are from Atlanta. You both ended up at JSU. Can y'all tell me how y'all each got to JSU?
Well, I guess I'll go first. It's actually one of those funny stories. I guess it was just destined to be. Initially, I was going to go to Tennessee State University. I always wanted to go to a HBCU. So I applied to Tennessee State University. I was awarded a full scholarship. And in my scholarship letter, they told me that I received a full academic scholarship, but they didn't have any money to fund academic scholarships. So that actually went out the water. I had an awesome guidance counselor, which is how I ended up being a counselor, Dr. Dinkins at Creekside High School. He actually told me about Jackson State University. He actually introduced me to the SWAC. Other than Southern and Grambling, I didn't know any of the other schools. So he told me about Jackson State. He said, go ahead and apply and, see what happens. So I applied. I got in. I received a presidential scholarship, which paid for everything. So even though I didn't know too much about Mississippi or Jackson State, they brought me in kind of on an academic visit when they did a scholarship reception for all of the presidential scholars. I actually had my best friend at the time. Well, she's still my best friend. She actually applied too. I was like, hey girl, I'm applying to Jackson State. It's in Mississippi. I need someone to come with me, so I'm gonna need you to apply too. So she applied, she got in, she received a presidential scholarship. We came down for the scholarship banquet, and Linda Rush, who was over Tiger Pride at the time, was instrumental in basically being like our mom away from home. So that's how I ended up in Jackson.
Cool, cool, cool. What about you, Contra?
Well, my story is a little different from Tamika's. I actually ended up in Jackson because I always tell people it's because I tore my ACL,
Uh-huh.
right? So I was actually offered a scholarship to go to LSU, and that's where I was going. I tore my ACL, second to last game of my high school career, and they took back their scholarship.
Right.
So at that point in time, I'm trying to figure out where I needed to go, where I wanted to go. And Jackson State track coach is actually one who came and offered me a scholarship through my summer track coach, Coach Canada, introduced me to Dr. Emmett Donald. So he came through and he offered me a scholarship, and then a couple of my teammates had already went to Jackson State. So it was kind of like, let me go ahead and try this out.
Right.
And I ended up in Jackson and probably made the best decision of my life to come to Jackson.
Cool. So when did y'all meet?
So we met my junior year, your sophomore year.
Yeah,
that sounds
right.
about right. So in actuality,
Got a little spell going on?
so he ended up getting hurt again in college.
Okay.
And he ended up being redshirted. And so one of his friends from back home in New Orleans, Darnisha, shout out to Darnisha. She actually was like, well, I mean, you can't play football, so you might as well come on and be on the cheerleading team. And somehow she convinced him to go ahead and be on the cheerleading team. I really think it was his way to get to the sidelines, but hey, we'll talk about that at another time. So that's actually how we met. I met him on the cheerleading squad at Jackson State. I was already there. I had already been cheering for Jackson State. I didn't like him at first, I'm just going to be honest, but we ended up the road trip to Indianapolis. We played in the Circle City Classic, and so the bus ride, we actually got to sit down and have a conversation, and that's when we really kicked things off. So
cool. That's what's up.
And it was mutual. I didn't like her either, so
I have that effect on people. It's okay.
all thing we had to do was have a little conversation. Then we figured out we were probably more alike than we are
Right.
different. So that's definitely how it happened.
Okay. So, Country, you went there for football, and you ended up doing cheerleading and track also?
Right. So I did football. Well, actually, this is the exact order it went in, right? I cheered, then I played football, and then of course I was doing track at the same time. I actually stopped playing football when Coach Bell was there.
Right.
Because me and him didn't get along. All right. So I came off of the football team for my junior year, and I just did track. Then I went back my senior year, started with all conference, and I came back with Coach Comedy for his first year. So I had a crazy road. I never played consecutive years of football while I was in college, but I still played enough to put my name in the record book,
Right. Okay. So what did each one of you major in?
So I majored in English education.
And I majored in health, physical education, and recreation with a minor in biology.
Okay. All right. So how long have you been coaching?
You go first.
So this is my 16th year in JPS. So I have been coaching for 16 years. I coached cheerleading at Blackburn Middle School for 7 years. I coached girls track there for 6 years. And then this is my 9th year at Jim Hill. And I've been coaching girls track and cheerleading the entire 9 years. And then for the last year that I was at Blackburn Middle School, I also coached Jackson State's cheer squad that last year. But I was pregnant at the time, so then I stopped doing that, and then I ended up at Jim Hill, and that took up a lot of time. So
Okay.
I've done middle school, high school, and college.
I started my coaching career soon after I graduated from my senior year. So I played my senior year of football, and then I didn't have any more years left in track. So I was a graduate assistant, and I coached track and field that year. And I coached that since 2000. 2007, right? So I've been in Jackson State University coaching there since 2007. I went from being part-time,
Mm-hmm.
being now full-time at the university. So just to go back a little bit, during that time period, I was employed with the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fishery, and Parks. So
Okay.
I was an education biologist there for 9 years. So I taught there from 8 to 5. Then I came over to Jackson State and coached after that and in the morning time in between that. So I was part-time at Jackson State and I was full-time with the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fishery, and
Wow.
Parks.
That is cool. I did not know that. I'm glad I'm having this conversation with y'all. All right, so we kind of went into this, but how did you get into coaching, Country? You alluded to it a little bit that you ran out of your eligibility for track, but how did you
Right.
get into, go ahead.
So essentially, every coach that I've had always tell me, you're a coach on the field. You're a coach. You know, you're my assistant coach. And so it comes naturally to me to try to help everybody get to the level in which I think we all need to be at.
Right.
And then secondly, I got into coaching when I was in college. I didn't have a coach.
Right.
My coach didn't coach field events. All right. So if you know anything about HBCUs, it's a limited amount of staff that we're going to be allowed to. So that means if you have a coach, they need to be well-rounded because you're going to probably have to coach everything. Right. But coach knew that I was able to self-function, to kind of coach myself per se. So when he gave me my scholarship, he said, son, I don't have a coach to coach you, but I believe you can do what needs to be done in order to make it move.
Right.
So while I was there, I coached everybody else on the team. So I was coaching as competing. So I'm like Bill Russell, a player coach. That's kind of how it went. So
Okay.
I kind of started my coaching there, right? So it just kept gradually growing. Then we started the Mississippi Track Stars. So that's a separate line of coaching that we had, our summer track team that we had for 10 years, 11 years. And then I went into Jackson State and obviously started coaching. And that's kind of how I moved into it. So I kind of say I was groomed and forced into a job at the same time.
Gotcha. I understand that. Before we get into you, Tamika, can we talk about the Mississippi Track Stars? How did that come about?
So the Mississippi Track Stars, it started with me and my friends. It was 3 of us initially that started it, and then I drugged my wife into it. And, but she was there. She a trooper now. 11 years, that's a long time. But we started it to so we can create opportunities in the Jackson area for kids to go to college.
Gotcha.
Right? All of us got to college basically based off of summer track
Mm-hmm.
in some type of way, right? So we noticed that it was a dire need for it in the Jackson area. They didn't have any.
Right.
So we started that to give kids opportunities to, better themselves and get out to college and see the world. So we did that. I can't remember the exact number. We sent to college. I can't remember, but I know it's close to 30. And I'll just leave it there. Kids that we actually sent to college on scholarships.
Right.
So that was the purpose of our program. It's to get them exposure. We took them everywhere across the country, and they competed throughout the summer, and they did well, and they ranked in the nation and everything. But that's the reason why we started, and it's still going to this day.
Okay.
A couple of my former athletes have taken it over. I kind of had to step away from it because it started to get bigger than what I could actually handle with my full-time coaching with Jackson State, and Tamika with her cheerleading and stuff. It started running everything into it, so we had to kind of step back from it a little bit. But I'm still there. It's coaching emeritus, and I make sure I come over and tell them what I need to tell them, during that time period, and we still make it work. When she let me sneak out there, I sneak out there to practice.
Okay. I love it. I'm loving it. All right, Tamika, how about you? How did you get into coaching?
So I guess like him, I was groomed as well. I say that God gave me the talent of natural born leadership, which is a gift and a curse at times. Mm-hmm. But so when I started at Blackburn, I actually did my student teaching at Blackburn. And before my student teaching was finished, the principal at the time offered me a full-time teaching position. I actually had not planned on staying in Jackson. I had actually gotten accepted into grad school at Auburn and
Okay.
the University of Alabama at Birmingham. So I had actually intended to go to graduate school at Auburn when they offered me a full-time teaching position. I was like, well, I mean, I could go ahead and start my teaching career now and just work graduate school into it. So I accepted the job, of course, ended up doing grad school at Jackson State, extra part-time. I call it extra part-time. I took maybe like 1 or 2 classes a semester here and there until I received my master's degree. So when I was doing my student teaching, I would kind of help the cheerleaders there. And so I asked them, you know, if I come on, you know, do you already have a cheerleading coach? And they were like, well, no, we really will want you to come on and be the cheerleading coach. And I was like, okay, great. And they had a track coach at the time. And so my first year, I just did cheer. I believe it was my second year there. The track coach at the time, he did boys and girls track, Coach Payne. He actually asked me to come on if I was interested. I was like, yeah, I'm interested. I didn't really know about the coaching aspect of track. I knew what it took to coach cheer.
Right.
But I was a little unsure of track, but I knew I had a track guru here. And if I needed some help, I had a track encyclopedia. So, he actually just had me come on more so as like a chaperone as opposed to necessarily a coach.
Right.
So he could have that female, you know, present to help with the females. And then after a year of that, he stepped down and I was able to take over full time and fell in love with coaching track, just like I love coaching cheer. So that's how that happened. And then when I did my interview at Jim Hill, when you do an interview and they ask you, do you have any questions for us? My question was, do you need a cheer and track coach? Because I only want to go to a school where I can coach cheer and track. And lo and behold, they had an availability for a girls track coach and a cheer coach. And that's how I ended up.
Good deal, man. That's what's up. That is what's up. How long have y'all been together? How long have y'all been married?
What you looking at me
I just want
for?
to make sure because I asked you this the other day.
You want to answer?
No, you answer.
We've been married for 12 years and we've been together for 17 years.
Beautiful.
I know we look very youthful and baby faced, but we've been married for 12. We're an old married couple.
Gotcha. True inspiration. I hope to get there one day. All right. How do you maintain both sports along with being a spouse, a parent, and counselor?
Very tepidly. It is definitely a juggling act and a balancing act. So what had to happen, and that's what you learn as you kind of get older and you become an old married couple.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens now is, as we've gotten older, we make sure that the other person has our schedules so that I know I have all his track meets in my phone. And then when we get the football schedule and the basketball schedule, I post them on the refrigerator. So that way we know, like when people invite me to gatherings or when stuff is going on, then I always check my calendar and I check his calendar. So I try not to schedule too much stuff during track season. On the weekends, he's going to be home because he's gone a lot of weekends. So the weekends he is there, we kind of try to reserve that for family time. So he doesn't really schedule things on his off weekends during track season. And I don't really schedule outside things during the off weekends during track season. So, and he still tells me I need to learn to say no more, but I do say no a lot more than I used to in the past. So like every exhibition game, every tournament, whereas when I first started, we were going to everything.
Right.
Now I have to say no. I have a husband and a child, so yeah, we're gonna do what we're supposed to do, but we can't necessarily take on all of these extras. And if I do take on extra, like I said, if it's during track season, because that's the time when we're both out and traveling, then I do it on his away weekends. Now football season is a little different. We're at home. We're season ticket holders at Jackson State games. So like football season is like our season. That's us. We're going to all the games together. We're doing all the family stuff. Junior's birthday is during that season, Christmas. So fall is good. Spring is where we really work on our balancing act. And then going into the new year, I have developed a schedule as far as balancing the counseling work as well. I actually, so basically what I do is I try to handle coaching things after hours.
Gotcha.
So it's like a couple hours in between, like when he may still be practicing or whatever, but it's after school time where I do the administrative work to the coaching, because that could take on a life in and of itself.
Yes, indeed. Yes. You mentioned JSU football. This was not on the schedule, but how do y'all feel about Coach Prime?
I'm gonna tell you, I'm super excited. I'm ecstatic at the possibilities of making sure that everybody's speaking about Jackson State.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Since we're out of town now, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're in the AT&T store. People talking about Jackson State. They didn't know we was from Jackson. They didn't know I was employed at Jackson State.
Right.
But Jackson State came up in conversation. And that's what we need. We need it to be a household name so everybody can understand that we have something to offer. You come down to Jackson, you come to Jackson State, you can better your life. So that's what I'm excited about, the possibilities. Now, the football side, it's going to do what it's going to do. Right. You know what I mean? So it's going to make sure everything is working. And I know Coach Prime going to come out there and get those boys ready to play. But the bigger aspect, the bigger picture of it is excellent for the city. It's excellent for the state, right? We're getting buzz to the city and the state that as much as needed. So we can kind of get some things moving around there. So that's where everything's going in. Hopefully that direction just keeps going to the top.
True that. I know me and Tamika both working at Jim Hill. It just makes me want to take my game and make sure everything I do is at least par, bare minimum par. Right. You never know. Coach Prime might come over or anybody else might come over and just check out what we're doing that day. So I definitely got to make sure we got to be on our top of our game.
That's one thing I know for sure. He's gonna come in the community now.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He's gonna stop around. So you just make sure, like you say, as long as you stay ready, you have to get ready.
Get ready. There we go. All right. Well, what about you, Country? How do you maintain that balance?
Listen, I'm gonna tell you, I had to take a step back. The biggest thing I did was when I took myself out the equation of the summer track team, right? When I took myself out the equation of Mississippi Track Stars, that was a planned and thought about decision, right? I actually thought about my retirement for 2 years, and I kept coming back off it. You know what I mean? Because my whole thing is, I still got some more kids I got to get out. And then I thought about it, it's going to keep happening. You know what I mean? I'm always going to have that cycle of kids. So at some point in time, I have to step away from it because I realized it was taking so much of our time as far as free time for the family. Because, Junior say, hey, Daddy, I want to go do blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, nah, son, we got to go to this track meet, stay all day for three days straight. And, he ain't really trying to hear that. Right. And I don't think I need to deprive him from that. So, and, Tamika, I definitely have to give her time so we can go because my wife loves to travel. And let me say it again, loves to travel. So I know that means we have to get on the plane somewhere and go somewhere, so we can make it move. So with that thought process, I made sure to, let me go ahead and map out some time. And time management is the key, So we just got to make sure when we get that time, we're effectively using that time. So that's basically what I did. I just kind of prioritized what was really important and just moving on from there.
Okay. All right. So what advice would you have for any aspiring coaches?
So advice for aspiring coaches, there were two things that he talked about that are extremely important when you're coaching. That's time management, it's prioritizing, and then I hope this wasn't what you were going to say, but I know we both feel the same way, is that you can't coach a kid until a kid knows you care about them. So that's actually the number one thing. You can coach people or attempt to coach people all day, but the results don't come until the kids know that you care. And times change and generations change. When I initially came to coaching, you may have gotten away with, just giving them the workout, do this, step 1, 2, 3, 4. But as you continue to grow you have to adapt. That's my second bit of advice. You have to adapt. You can't coach. I don't coach in the COVID times the same way I coached the last school year. I didn't coach last school year the same way I coached when I first started coaching. So adapting to change and making sure that your athletes know that you care.
Okay.
And not to, you're going to probably hear some of the same things, but I'm going to say it just a little bit different, right? You can't coach the event. You have to coach the athlete.
Ooh.
Right? So I'm going to say that again. You can't coach the event. You can't coach the activity. You have to coach the athlete.
Message.
Because every athlete is different, right? Every athlete doesn't always conform to the cookie cutter way of doing something. So you have to figure out what triggers them and what makes them move and what makes them motivated to do whatever they need to do. Motivation is always the key to success. Because if somebody's motivated to do something, you can kind of make sure they put them in the right track to do what they need to do. Second thing is you definitely have to be adjustable and flexible, right? Adaptation, like Tamika was talking about, and willing to step back and change if you don't see something's going right.
Right.
The biggest thing that coaches do, and I know this is a lot around in this area, they're going to keep drilling it even if it don't work, right? And that just makes no sense. You know what I mean? So sometimes you have to take a step back from your ego and do it. Every year, at the end of the year, I evaluate my workouts. I evaluate what was done right. I evaluate what was done wrong. And I look and see, well, what can I change here? So every year I'm evolving as a coach, right? And coaching education is big. You have to keep learning. It's always something new that might come out there, right? Just to listen to somebody else's point of view, something that you haven't thought about before, might help you get to that next level, right? College coaches do it all the time. We have symposiums all the time that we sit and listen to each other talk and listen to what you're doing in the day. Now, what he's doing might not work for you, right? But you might hear something in his process that says, hey, let me think about doing this, and then modify it to what I have as a team, So that's one of the biggest things, coaching education. You just got to make sure we get that done.
Okay. All right. What is your why?
We're gonna have to hear that question again and kind of cut off.
Okay. What is your why? So Tamika knows when Mr. Brown came in, that was what he was heavy on. We're all teachers, but why do we teach? So what is your why to what you do?
So the why to what I do is to expose the students in the community that I'm in to new and different experiences, and to teach them to push beyond their limits, because it's easy to get pigeonholed, especially when you work in an urban setting. It's easy to get pigeonholed into what people believe you can do and what you can't do. And I always try to tell not just my athletes, but my students to succeed in spite of, not to give in because of. Like, which person are you going to be? Are you going to exceed and excel in spite of your circumstances, or are you going to fold and, be disappointed because of? We can blame our circumstance, or we can move beyond our circumstance. So that's my why.
Okay.
And my why would be, I have an innate desire within myself to make sure that everybody achieves greatness around me, right? Like, that's one of my biggest fire. I tell my kids all the time, I say, this is a good day to be great, and I really want you to understand that you have it inside of you. Now, the question is, what are you going to do to get it out of you? So that's one of my pushing things. I just want to make sure I'm giving opportunities to people who are willing to work and willing to grind and willing to go to make that next step. I tell most of them, I say, y'all probably will never see an Olympics, right? But I guarantee you're going to have a college degree, and the only thing I'm asking you to do is pay it forward. Pay it forward to the next person. So that's my thing. I just want to push the next generation, try to create some good young men, good young women, and put them out there in this world, and hopefully it could just keep on pushing, and then, everybody getting to that goal that they set for themselves.
And to follow up, that was one of the biggest things with the Mississippi Track Stars, and why it did take so long to turn it over to someone else, because we had so many kids who had I mean, they had been on track teams or, played organized sports, but had never been outside of the city of Jackson.
Mm.
Like the furthest they may have gone was to Pearl or Clinton or Brandon, and that was to play a game. So being able to take them, I mean, because the way summer track works, especially back then, because like he said, there really weren't any teams in this area. So whereas now they have summer track meets, in Pearl or in Madison, they didn't have those when we first started. Every track meet was in Louisiana or Alabama. So just for them to go next door to Louisiana was like amazing. Right. Then when you talk about taking kids from this setting who have never been outside of Jackson, and now you're taking them to Junior Olympics, you're not just taking them so they can see it, you're taking them so they can actually compete and be competitive. It was awesome. Even when I got to Jim Hill, when I first got there, after the first couple of years, we used to go to track meets at Ole Miss and Mississippi State and USM, and we were young and inexperienced, and the kids used to be like, "Coach, why are you bringing us here? Oh my gosh, they're like state champions and we're just getting started." And I said, well, to beat the best, you have to beat the best. So giving them that exposure, it takes the mystique and the stigma out of it, and it lets them know that they can be champions. Because when you get kids who have never been outside of their city, a lot of times they feel like people from other areas already have a leg up, and that's what they're supposed to do. And because of where they come from, that's not what I'm supposed to do. So giving them those opportunities allows them to see that it is absolutely possible to be on that podium, and that I can go to college for this, and I can exceed and excel.
Definitely breaking that stigmatism, breaking that when those kids left out of there, you can see the change in their demeanor. Mm-hmm. Right? When they came back, you were like, oh, it's other things other than Jackson. Mm-hmm. People live differently other places. They do things differently other places. They talk differently other places. You know what I mean? Like the first day they came back, man, you hear how they talk? That is something that you have to, understand, that everybody doesn't do things the same way. Right. And just having that eye-opening experience for those kids, I guarantee push them probably even more to achieve the goals that they have achieved.
And to push their school teammates, because then they go to school. Right. We probably made some coaches mad. Because then they go to school and be like, that's not what we do at summer track. Right. Nah, you think that's fast. Nah, that's not fast. Go run against those kids from Louisiana. Right. You'll see fast. So, I mean, they took it. It was something they carried. They carried with them and became a part of them.
Cool. That's what I like to hear. So,
excuse the interruption. It's me, K-Pad. And I just want to say thank you for tuning in and listening to For the Health of It on whatever streaming service you choose. Be sure to subscribe and give us a good rating. Now back to the show.
All right, so I love your whys, beautiful whys, very inspirational and inspiring. So you got on your shirts that says "We work hard." Tell me about your family business and why you started it up.
So basically, it comes off the same premise as we both have as it relates to coaching. It's actually something that's been in the work for a few years, and a good friend of mine kept saying, when are you all going to really get started and really, give your knowledge back out to the community? So, I mean, COVID happened, and it was as good of a time as any to go ahead and get started. And it's the same premise. The reason why we started the business is to basically do the same thing that we did with the Mississippi Track Stars, but on a broader scale, and to start younger. So what we see a lot of times in our encounters is that kids from certain demographics, like where we are right now, they kind of get a late start on the technical side of sports. Mm-hmm. Great talent, lots of potential and ability, but they get a late start on the technical side of it. Whereas, people from other areas may have, private coaches, personal trainers, or even just have those who give them the foundational aspects. A lot of times our kids don't start getting the technical stuff until they get into high school. Right. And in some cases, in many cases, that's late. So the reason that we started this is so that kids can start getting the technical training, learning the basics, the fundamentals, get the foundation from a young age, 5, 6, elementary school and middle school. And, so that by the time they get to high school, they're ready. And then also on the other side of it, to provide them with information that they may need for the next level. Because a lot of times, kids just know, I want to play sports and I want to go to college for sports. And as a high school guidance counselor, I have to sit down and have conversations with student athletes all the time and ask them, well, specifically, what school do you want to go to? Okay, well, do you know the admission requirements for that school? Aside from NCAA requirements, then do you know the NCAA requirements? Do you know, which classes actually count towards your core GPA? We've had athletes that, their cumulative GPA says one thing, but their core GPA says another. So then you have to have those tough conversations. So all of that played a part in us saying, okay, between the two of us, we have 30 plus years of experience coaching. We've both been student athletes. We have all of this knowledge that we want to give starting at a young age to help kids in the community.
Okay.
Just to level the playing field.
I like it. So what all services do y'all offer?
So I call it personal training and private coaching. And a lot of times when people hear personal training, then, they think of, adults who go to the gym, you had that personal trainer, like, come on, and they develop workouts for you. But when I say personal training, what we mean is we're training and preparing your youth to develop the skills necessary for the specific sports that they are thinking about. It also gives you, if you start them young enough, then it gives them time to decide if that's even for them. For example, even though we did the Mississippi Track Stars for 11 years and Junior was a large part of that, a lot of people assume he wants to do track. Well, he saw that. He was inundated with it and ingrained with it. And he has no desire to be on a track team. A lot of kids may say they want to run track. So if you go ahead and bring them out there, once they've had one of Coach Country's workouts, they'll know whether or not they really want to, do track. But it's not just track. I mean, I am blessed to marry someone with a vast knowledge of all sports, so he can get you together in all sports. Of course, where I come in, my specific knowledge, sports specific knowledge, deals with track and field and cheer. So on the private coaching side, then we also offer cheer camps, cheer clinics. A cheer clinic would be if you just wanted somebody to come in one day for a couple hours and work on something specifically with your team. I can provide that for you. Or if you want a multi-day camp, I have a couple of relationships with a couple of schools now where each summer I do their summer camp. That's what I do. They call me and they say, hey, coach, when can you schedule us in? And we go ahead and get that done. We're going to be branching out to even work on cheer tryouts. So we'll actually develop your tryout material for you, give you a whole tryout kit. We'll create the material for you. We'll get it taught for those people trying out, and we'll even provide you with judges. So you really don't have to do anything but take the scores and pick your squad at the end. We'll take care of the whole tryout process for you. So.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope. Okay. You mentioned cheer. Can you tell me about the different cheer associations and the different types of cheerleading?
So Varsity Spirit Brands is the largest organization related to cheer. So Varsity Spirit Brands encompasses camps, they encompass cheer competitions, they encompass apparel, basically any and everything. Your two basic style types of cheer will be all-star cheer and school cheer. So school cheer is a lot of times deemed as a spirit squad. So those are the cheerleaders that you see performing on the sidelines at your games. Now, school cheer also breaks down into school cheer or spirit squads and competitive squads. Competition squads, they'll actually go to competitions. That's what you see on ESPN. That's what piqued my interest, was watching cheer competitions on ESPN. Then there's recreational cheer. So those are your little league teams. They have cheerleaders as it relates to them. So Varsity is the biggest brand. You also have other brands. You have USA Cheer, which is a brand and association related to cheer. They deal a lot with college cheer as well. I do want to take a little time to talk about USA Cheer, because under USA Cheer, they have developed a subset of cheer called Stunt.
Mhm.
There's an ongoing battle as to whether cheerleaders are athletes and cheerleading is a sport. So many people recognize competitive cheerleading as a sport. Cheerleaders are athletes. Whether you deem cheerleading as a sport or not is up to debate depending on where you are and what your squad does. So USA Cheer has actually developed a subset called Stunt, which is actually in the 2021 NCAA cycle is going to be voted on, but the NCAA has recognized it as an official emerging women's sport. So the 2021 cycle, they're going to officially decide on whether or not stunt, S-T-U-N-T, will be a sport. It was designed and designated so that it could become a sport. It actually has 4 quarters. It's 2 teams competing head to head. There are 4 quarters, so each quarter talks about something different. One is partner stunts, one is jumps and tumbling, one is tosses and pyramids, and then the final quarter is like a team routine. So you go head to head. You have 2 teams. They get on the mat. They do the exact same skills. The judges score them, and whoever scores the highest, they get a point. The team with the highest point total at the end is declared a winner. So based on the structure of it, it does follow the format of a sport. So there are the University of Kentucky right now is the only school. Well, last time I checked, they were the only school in the SEC that had it. But there are about 22 colleges around the country. There are none in the South as of right now. No southern states, no schools, no colleges in the southern states officially have a team. But there are several schools in other regions who have actually developed stunt teams who actually compete. So there's a even more competitive side of cheer that goes along with that. Outside of varsity, there are other ones. Like I said, there's USA Cheer, there's Powerhouse Spirit, which is taking a reign as it relates to Stomp and Shake. There's You Fit Cheer and Dance, which is also in the Stomp and Shake realm. So
Okay.
a whole lot of different associations and a whole lot of different types. It just depends on how much you want to get involved and what type of cheerleading you want to do.
Okay. Cool. And my last question for you, country, is you always hear people, especially it's crazy being here at Jim Hill. I always hear somebody say, I want my kids to go D1 when Jackson State, JSU, is right around the corner and they're a D1 school. And then you'll mention that to them. They're like, man, not really, man. And it's like, well, they're D1. Can you explain the difference to me between D1, D1 AA, and D2?
Right. So that D1 separation really only comes in football. All right. So it's the football, the FBS, that's the football bowl subdivision, and then they have the FCS, that's the football championship subdivision.
Okay.
Right. So if you're in the FBS, those are the teams that can play for the national championship that you see on New Year's Day and all of the above. Right. The FCF has its own national championship where you go to a playoff system, which they actually run through, like North Dakota has been winning for years and years and years, right? But that's what the FCS, that's the difference between the
Gotcha.
two. That's the only sport that it has, right? Because basketball, Jackson State goes to the tournament, they win the SWAC championship.
Right.
It's the only sport that matters is in football. So if your child is not competing in football,
Then it don't matter.
across the board, period.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Because when we go to our national championship, when my teammate won the national championship, he beat LSU, he beat Ole Miss, Mississippi State, you name it. I don't care who it is. They lined up against them, they lost, right? So at the end of the day, it only truly matters in football as far as the difference between Division I, right? So that's the only thing. Now, Division II is obviously another thing, that's a whole nother division in Division III, and the scholarships kind of vary depending on what division you're in.
Okay, cool. Why do you think there is the FBS and FCS?
Man, look, man, you're going to give me, I always debate this, right? I'm going to tell you,
We
right?
plead the fifth.
No. I'm gonna give my comment on it. I think the true division has to deal with economic status, period.
Gotcha.
Right? At the end of the day, they want to keep the money with the money.
Right.
They don't want to spread the money out. See, because when you have to have more teams come in, because see what's going to happen, and Coach Prime has already got this in the works, right?
Yep.
When you give the talent the people are going to follow,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's all it is. At one point in time, all the talent was in the SWAC, period. And the Hall of Fame shows that proof, okay?
Right.
All the talent was in the SWAC. All of a sudden, Alabama, Ole Miss, LSU say, hey, we need some of these African Americans to come over here. And all of a sudden, the power switch, right? And that's all it is at the end of the day. It's about talent level and facilities.
Gotcha.
We get the talent to come back to the HBCUs, the facilities going to come with it because the money going to come because people going to come to the games. They're going to watch. TV is going to come, right?
Right.
Just watch. In a minute, you'll see Jackson State making those moves, and all of a sudden, people are gonna be like, "Wait, what's going on?" That's all it is. It's all about economic status at the end of the day.
Okay. All right. Cool. Well, hey, I appreciate y'all getting on with me. I've been wanting to do this interview with y'all since last March. It's a pleasure.
Okay, don't put us out there like that. It was me. It was all me.
Yeah, I was mainly talking to you.
I know you're talking to me. I'll accept that.
But thank y'all so much. And also, I got to give my flowers before, I always got to give flowers to people while they're alive. Coach Harris, Tamika, I appreciate all the hard work you do with me at Jim Hill. You make my job so much easier at Jim Hill.
Why, thank you. It's really been a pleasure coaching with you. So we built a nice system and a program. So it's great when you can build a program.
True. And last thing, shout out y'all social media before y'all get out of here.
Okay, so our Instagram is at WeWorkHardMS. Come on, Junior. Junior wants me to shout out his Instagram. His Instagram is The J Man Show. TheEejay Man Show. Please like and subscribe his YouTube channel. It is what is it, JFam? I believe
JMH Fam.
JMH Fam on YouTube. We also have a fully functioning website, www.weworkhardms.com. You can get these nice shirts, and we have some new products launching in the spring. Right now, you can get these shirts. They come in youth size. We have some Racerback tanks. We did a survey not too long ago, so a lot of the items that you all asked for, they're coming in the spring. So We Work Hard MS on Instagram, www.weworkhardms.com is the website, and follow him on at DJ Man Show. What's your TikTok, son?
JMan619.
JMan619. Please go follow him on all social media platforms, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Go ahead.
All right, y'all. I appreciate it. This has been another episode of For the Health of It, and I'm your host, Corian K. Paget. Thank you for watching.